There are three kinds of people: those that make big happen, those that let things happen, and those that ask, what happened? I rode Kitty, an 8,000-pound elephant, into our annual meeting, and the message was, if you think big and act big, you will be big.
2 hours from bankruptcy to $1.6 billion. That is nuts. You didn't quit. You never gave up. You got the business off the ground. You created the largest coaching company in the world. It's not what happens, is how you respond to it.
Nothing ever great was achieved without adversity and the desire to march on. If you don't like your situation, you have two choices: either change your situation or change the lens as to which you look at that situation.
Welcome to another episode of Fortunate Fishes, where wealth is more than money. It's not only financial capital, it's intellectual, social, human, emotional, and spiritual. Today, I'm interviewing Mark Moses. And if I opened a dictionary and I looked at the word resilience, if I didn't find Mark's smiling face telling me to go bigger, I'd be shocked. So welcome, Mark, to the Fortunate Fishes podcast.
Thank you, Charlie.
So I want to start with, to me, this story encapsulates who you are. You're at Platinum Capital with a very close friend. You just leased up new space. You're growing like crazy. And all of a sudden, like 90% of your 90 employees leave with your partner across the street. He even takes your freaking receptionist. I would have been crushed totally. But you involve a solution that has to do with an elephant and a freaking marching band. Like, what the hell was going through your head, and what did you do?
Well, don't underestimate that I wasn't upset and crushed and devastated and very, very angry because all of those were true. As the next couple of months went by, every year we would do an annual State of the Company, similar to the State of the Union. And the purpose of it was to share how we did prior year, recognize people that really made a difference, and then share the ongoing vision of the company. And this particular year, being that we had just been crushed, arguably decimated, arguably we weren't going to make it. And I asked my assistant to find me a marching band, and she thought I was nuts.
You were in San Diego at the time, right?
We were in Irvine, California.
Irvine, okay.
But it's funny. I asked her for the USC marching band, and they weren't available. But she did find me a naval band from San Diego. But then here's the big question: is I need you to find me an elephant. And she said, "Man, I know you've been under a lot of stress lately, but where am I supposed to find an elephant?" And I said, "You're my assistant. You're resilient. You figure it out." So she found an elephant from a company called Have Trunk, Will Travel. And I rode Kitty, an 8,000-pound elephant, into our annual meeting. And the message was, if you think big and act big, you will be big. Let's do $1 billion. And our team of people were laughing, they were crying, they were going, "Oh my God, this is insane."
You didn't lead this elephant down the street, did you? By hand?
No, I wrote it. I wrote it. It was interesting. Yeah, I wrote it. We had torn down a wall in the building, and I rode the elephant into the meeting, and it was crazy. Then we told everybody to think big and act big. You will be big. Let's do $1 billion. And it took 8 years, but we eventually did $1 billion. And we survived this decimation of our business and rebuilt it stronger and better. And we became the elephant company. NBC captured it on the morning news, the evening news, which was funny when I was having friends from around the country asking if they thought they had saw me riding an elephant to work in a suit.
And how did you come up with that idea? Like, what the hell was going through your mind? like
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
How old
I'm
were you? You were in your 30s? Or
Yeah, I would have been, when that happened, I would have been 32. And yeah, that sounds crazy. Crazy thing to do at 32. I think of my own kids in their mid 20s, and they wouldn't do something like that. And
wow. But it worked. I mean, it was such a, I think sometimes you have to like scratch the record and reframe everything. And you took it more as a challenge. But you said your staff was laughing, they were crying. They probably,
well, the big point they made for me was the next day, when they came to work, they brought in little stuffed elephants and put them on their desk, crystal elephants, ceramic elephants, and say, "Hey, dude, you're a weird guy, but we're with you." And it was a great recruiting tool, to recruit more people. This company sounds like fun. And
wow.
we were hiring. We had to hire a lot because we had just moved into this huge building, and uh, we hardly had any people. And so we were hiring 20 people a month, and it was easy to hire them because this looked like a fun place to be.
Wow. You know, I just came back from an R360 spiritual retreat to India, and it reminded me that I went with my 26-year-old daughter, Amparo, and I went into town and I bought a big silver elephant because in the Hindu religion, Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. So I wanted her to have that, to always think, hey, here's, put it on your desk. It's also a fun, energetic, funny animal that and sometimes puts obstacles in your way for you to learn something. So I think the fact that you had an obstacle or an elephant was a great thing.
It was something that I, I I got more elephants as gifts over the years. It was so difficult when I moved because I had to make choices when I moved from California to Miami. My wife goes, "You're not taking on, we're not going to have a whole house full of elephants again." We even had one that, you know, how people in,
Yeah.
have these big lions out front of their homes. Well, I came home from a trip once, and my wife had a big elephant out in front of the home, like built into the front entrance. And I thought I was seeing things when I got home, but she said, "No, I thought you deserved to have an elephant out front of your house. The lion wasn't necessarily for you, but elephant, man, that's big."
That is great. And now it kind of clicks. I've loved reading your books over the years, Mark. And I think on one of the books, you have like an elephant on the cover, no?
Both books, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I got, this is the first one, and there is the second one.
Yeah. Now it ties it together. I want to get back to the story because we're talking about resilience. And here's your best man at your wedding who basically betrayed you. And we have family members that betray us. I've had partners that have also I've had that falling out. But how do you come back from deep personal betrayal and keep it from poisoning you? And did you ever forgive him?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So that was really hard for me because w- we were such close friends. We're
Yeah.
both Canadians living in California. Um, we met our wives to be 2 days apart. Our wives were great friends, and we would go out to dinner every Friday night together. And so it was not only the business that was hurt, it was the social circle that was hurt too. And it wasn't just mine, it was our little unit together, my wife and mine, and his wife and his. So we didn't speak for quite some time. And then one day I ran into him at a restaurant, and it was really strange. Now we're face to face at a restaurant, hadn't seen each other in a long time. And and this might have been 9 years later.
Right.
And my son had a brain tumor, and he said, "How's your son?" And man, I appreciated that he pushed past the all our angst, all our fight. The cover the Wall Street Journal covered it. It was just a battle, and so that was it. That came and went, and I was speaking to YPO in Shanghai, and this was in 2019. So many years after it happened, and I was staying at the Four Seasons. I went to the gym with my wife. Imagine all the hotels in the world, all the hotels in Shanghai. There's one guy in the gym, and it's him. And
Universe, I think it was the elephant Ganesh is testing you.
it was unbelievable. And I see him on a machine as we walk into the gym, and his head goes down, and he goes, "Ah, shit." And so we talked for a couple of minutes. We took a photo, and that night I had my speaking gig, and I always tell the story. And people always ask, "Well, have you seen him again?" Well, that's a great question. Yes, today here. So yeah, it was, and I put up the photo. So anyway, it was. But that, by the way, the end of the story is it was about 18 months ago. He was indicted and sentenced, and it finally caught up with him. He had some bouts with pushing the limit, and he ended up getting 5 years prison for fraud.
Karma's a bitch. But I want to go back to something you just mentioned. I don't want to let it go by because I have grandchildren now, and I have a granddaughter, Dalia, that was born 2 months ago. And just thinking, oh my gosh, if something happens, the worst thing in the world that could possibly happen is to a child. And here you get informed, I don't know, by a vet, or you find out that your 3-year-old son, Mason, has a brain tumor. Like, walk us through, like, what happened? What did you do? How did you handle that? And what did you learn from it?
Well, there's a lot of questions in there. So he had been having headaches and throwing up. My wife had been taking him to different doctors. They thought first maybe he needs glasses, maybe he's got the flu, maybe he's got migraines. And my wife's father is an optometrist and examined his eyes and couldn't see the optic nerve because something was blocking it. So then I took him in for an MRI, and here's the pitch. Hey, we're going to go and have this little test. As soon as we're done, we're going to get a burger, and then we'll take you back to school. And so that was the plan. So I take him down there, and then he has his test. He comes out, and then we wait, and we wait, and we wait. All of a sudden, they're paging the doctor over and over again. So, man, that's just weird. All of a sudden, we're in an ambulance on the way to the children's hospital, and we learned he had a brain tumor, and we didn't know what that meant. They told me not to call my wife and call my wife, but not tell her what the diagnosis was. Just have her come meet you at the hospital, tell them they want to run more tests. She has a meltdown. She meets me down there. And then when we finally meet the surgeon about 12 hours later, he said, and these kinds of tumors, we just don't know. It's 50-50. And because you know me, I'm direct. Shoot me straight, doc. I can deal with good news and bad news. It's no news I can't deal with. I need to know what the story is here. And he said, we won't know till we get in there. So the next day, he said, I'd rather go home and get some rest. It's 11 p.m. right now. And how about we do it in the morning? So we did. And fortunately, it was an encapsulated tumor, and they pulled it out. And despite him not being able to walk, move his arms and legs for months, one day he just started walking again. And after I'll say the first surgery, he had complications, and they put these, at the time, they put these tubes into his brain to measure the pressure. And eventually, the pressure's supposed to go down, but his wasn't going down. So he had what's called hydrocephalus, water on the brain. So we had to do another surgery. There's two ways to solve that. Either a shunt, which is the tube that goes in the brain, drains in the stomach. Bad news with that, it needs to be changed frequently, which means another surgery to go in and change it. Or you could do what's called third ventriculostomy. Only about 30% of the people are eligible and only works about 30% of the time. The good news, he was eligible and it worked. Yet there was more risk associated with it.
So how do you deal, Mark, with your son, your wife? You have an operating business. How did you juggle all these emotions to keep everything moving in yourself, in a good state of mind? Because if you're freaking out, then everyone else is going to be freaking out too.
Yeah, I'm not a freak out guy. I'm a to-do list guy. What do we need to do? Who do we need to talk to? Rank them in order and start. So for me, that part, I'm on a mission. I need to determine the best course of action, what the options are, assessing the doctors, validating their experiences. When this third ventriculostomy took place, now because they said there's a risk of death from this second surgery, but if it works, it'll be amazing. Now I got more things to research and more people to talk to. So I went down this path. So for me, I'm very task oriented, mission oriented. I need to get that done. In my wife's case, she's very emotional. So her parents and my parents and friends, a lot more emotion in that. And
Right,
me, I'm working my to-do list. So if you're not helping me with my to-do list, I'm not engaging with you. I'm working on my to-do list. So that's on the personal side. Yes, and this business is still going, and the business isn't taking time off for a health issue. That's your issue. And so fortunately, I had good people in place that ran the business during this period of time. What I learned was there was more to life than being a workaholic, especially early 30s, super passionate about making stuff happen, making big happen, and very driven, building the future. But it gave me perspective on what was really important. And here at the time, I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old with a brain tumor that couldn't walk and wondering how he was going to recover. 5 years in rehab, MRIs every quarter at first, always a meltdown going through that process. And then you think when he finally got pronounced cured 5 years later, then he one night he was out and he had like 300 seizures. And we're going, what the hell is that? Where's that coming from? What's this all about? And he was having these, they're called psychogenic seizures. So there's no brain activity or heart activity when they happen. They're all created in the mind. And how this got solved, like we couldn't leave him alone, right? Couldn't go in a swimming pool. He couldn't go anywhere by himself. And he would have been 8 years old at the time. So that's a journey too. And so one day, this is how this got cured. He's seeing all these docs and therapists and their monitors all over him, and they're watching him in the middle of a seizure. We've gone through, and they're saying, there's nothing going on. What do you mean nothing's going on? I'm watching it live here. There's a lot going on. He's like freaking out. And there's nothing going on in the brain, nothing going on in the heart. These are psychological. Holy shit. Wow. And so one day, my wife Yvette says, you don't want to have these anymore? How about you give them to me and we'll throw them away in the garbage? So that's exactly what they did. He motioned to take them out of his stomach, handed them to Yvette, and he threw them in the trash can. Never had one again.
Wow, that is incredible. Now, I want to jump forward to something that I also think is crazy, but I'm sure it had a whole purpose. But I remember, I think in one of your books that you take Mason to basically run a marathon on ice in like the Antarctica or something. Am I remembering that correctly?
It's interesting. Yes, you are remembering it correctly. When he was 12, a really good friend of mine, a YPO forum mate, went through something similar. He had throat cancer. He also got a 50-50 diagnosis. During that time, I said, when he's going through radiation, I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to sign you and everybody in the forum up for a half marathon. Goes, dude, I may not be here. Oh, that's bullshit. You're going to be here. We're all going to do this thing together. Wasn't a runner, and it was, my belief was I get him focused on something in the future that we were all going to do together. And Mason said at 12, I want to do it too. And 12 years old, run a half marathon, that's crazy. So Mason ran the whole race with my buddy, crossed finish line together. And then he said, Dad, I'd like to do a marathon. I said, well, you pick one anywhere you want. We'll go do it together. He picked Antarctica. And well, man, Antarctica, firstly, it's super hilly. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snow on the ground.
So he picked it. He picked it.
He picked it. It's
Holy
like, dude,
cow.
what's wrong with you? You almost have brain issues. And so we did that. And so he completed it. And like, it was not the greatest of accommodations. Like, we're staying in a tent, sleeping on the gravel.
How old is he at the time?
He was 14, and which is insane. And so the next year I was heading to do the North Pole Marathon. I asked him if he wanted to come with me, and he declined. He has never run a marathon since.
Wow. But you are an endurance athlete, and you've competed in Iron marathons and all this. Tell us about that journey, it started, what you've competed in, and I know you've won some big accolades, but tell us about why you did that, what it gave you, what you learned from it.
I'm even drinking out of my Hawaii Ironman World Championship mug today.
Awesome.
Yes. So when Mason went through his issues and stuff, I was just getting into little tiny sprint triathlons. And then it became a bit addictive. That started with the small ones, then went to Olympic distance. That was still tolerable. It was, rather than it being an hour and 15 or hour 20, it now became a 3-hour experience. And then I signed up for a half Ironman. Well, that's bigger shoes now.
And explain what an Ironman is. I don't think everybody knows the different things you have to do.
Yeah. So an Ironman distance is you swim 2.4 miles. So if you're out in Hawaii, for example, you're open ocean, you're swimming 2.4 miles. When you look how friggin' far that is, and then you can barely see the turnaround and come back, it's intimidating.
And you got sharks following you.
Well, yeah, you can. It's so clear you can see all the sea life below you. And then here's what I learned: just don't be the slowest. And the shark's going to get you. It's not going to be you. Then you ride your bike 112 miles. Just think about that for a moment. But you say today you got a meeting today, and it's 112 miles away, and you're taking your car. That's a pretty good distance. And but you're doing this by bike, and then when you get done with that, you run a full marathon, full 26.2 miles, and you do it all in the same day. And I've done 12 of those, and I've done the World Championship in Hawaii 5 times.
And how old were you when you completed the first one?
I would have been 41.
Wow! So you started in your 40s, and the last one that you completed, how old were you?
48. And in that period of time, that's a lot of them. It's like 2 a year, which is, looking back on that, that's a little obsessive.
You and I have, if you go to our website, R360 Global, you can take an archetype assessment. Mark and I are both Olympians. So we love to scale mountains and achieve things and keep going. So you have that. But I imagine it gave you lots of energy? Maybe when you're running, you're getting ideas. But how did it affect you as a CEO of building a company?
It's a good question. Training for a race, like a half Ironman distance is a lot. An Ironman distance is no joke. The discipline and commitment that it takes to train 20 hours a week, that doesn't count the time getting to and from workouts, doesn't count shower time, and doesn't count stretching time. And work full time and have a family. And then, hey, look, by 8 o'clock at night, you're tired. And pretty soon 4:45 is coming along and it's time to get the party started again. So I was already very disciplined, but it taught me how to be even more disciplined. Also, as it relates to being a CEO, it
Right.
was about setting goals and then achieving the goals. And it, I know at some point we might lead into this, but I went out and hired a world class coach, the guy that coached former Hawaii Ironman winners as pros. And I hired that guy to coach me. I was a rookie. I decided go get the best, teach me the best, and I'm going to have all kinds of obstacles, I'm sure. Just walk me through it all. And it was great having somebody to talk to. Over the years, I had him for most of the time. He was wonderful. His name's Rock Fry, also Canadian. And then I moved over to a guy that many people know, Ben Greenfield, was my coach last year. And it was a different style of training. It was a little bit more intense, but we went from 20 hours a week down to 12. And so I appreciated having more time. And so that was good for me. I had enough base in me. So
I agree 100% with you because you and I are built the same. So I have this big, hairy, audacious goal that I set about 4 years ago that I want to bring peace among and between the Abrahamic religions, which is 4 billion people on the planet who call Abraham their founder. And I'm going to do it through writing a novel, which I'd never done before. And that novel's going to become a international best-selling book and then movie. And of course, only 1 of 2 million novels gets to be a movie, right? So I found a guy who teaches at Columbia who has 2 books. One became a movie with Spielberg, one became a movie with Ford Francis Coppola. So I hired him as a coach for an entire year. And then I've been writing after that for 2.5 years. The main character in my book happens to be the mysterious founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. But anyway, the point is that if you want to do anything in life, find somebody who's done it before, hire him as a coach, him, she, and have them work with you. So we're going to come back to that. But first, I want to go back to me, the funniest story in your history, and it also demonstrates resilience. We've all been fired. I've been fired a few times. Almost got thrown out of the military, which is another interesting story. But you get fired at the age of 12, not for non-performance, but for performing too well. And you got fired by your own father. Tell us about that. And what were you doing at the time? Why'd you get fired? And what'd you learn from it?
well, I learned that my dad's salespeople were lazy, and my dad was a great sales guy. And I just watched him. And his business was called Moses Menswear. I lived in a mining town, and people needed suits, which my dad sold suits, ties, shirts for going to church or weddings or special events. And my dad's store was very popular. I watch my dad all the time. Which size suit are you looking for, sir? You need a 2, 3, 4 ties to go with that. How about a few shirts and you need some belts to go with that? And I'll upsell on the accessories. And I just learned all of that, and it was. I'd be
And they
bringing
probably got a kick out of a 12-year-old kid too.
yeah,
You know?
I remember it totally. It started stocking shelves with, which I didn't like so much. That just felt too manual to me. I liked interacting with people and say, hey, when the sales guys were out to lunch or whatever. And I said, hey, Dad, I got this. And I'd be outselling them all. And I don't know, maybe 12-year-old kid who had a lot of passion to do all this. It was so much fun. But my dad claimed that I was making too much of a ruckus with the people in the store, his employees. And my point was, Dad, they're just lazy. They're not very good, and you're not paying attention. So I got fired.
You can't coach your father, at least not when you're 12. But I want to, okay, last kind of in this resilience place, probably one of the lowest points, 1998, you're facing financial ruin, probably bankruptcy. You're starting to tour apartments with your wife, like really low scale apartments. How did you coach yourself out of that one? What happened? There was no marching bands or elephants, but walk us through what your business was, what you were doing, and what actually did happen.
Yeah, man, this opens up stories within stories. So we were crushing it. Imagine 32 years old, making $1 million a month profit, all organic. It was just make money, invest a little bit more the next month, invest a little bit more the following month. All of a sudden, we are crushing it. And I was in the mortgage business. And October 1998, after the Asian flu, long-term capital, hedge fund crisis at the time, Wall Street viewed the product that we were in as risky, and in a day decided to pull out of the product. And
Wow.
so we had 275 people in that building that we talked about earlier. Now, like, we couldn't fit any more people in, and we just collapsed. We had no product to sell. We had all these loans in process that we couldn't execute on. And then we had all these people, average age 24. These kids were making a ton of money. The parking lot looked like a Jaguar, BMW,
Wow.
Mercedes dealership with all these kids. And now we had collapsed. When this happened, with the time it got really ugly, we suffered to try to reinvent ourselves for a couple of years. We had, during that time, we had a child. By the time that child was 18 months old, that's our daughter, Darian, who's at the Rising Leader event today, by the way.
In Utah, yeah.
My wife's 9 months pregnant with Mason. Not a good time to choose to go out of business. 1-year-old, 9 months pregnant, time to go look for apartments, houses up for sale, boats up for sale, the 1-year-old's up for sale. And it's like, oh my God, this is, what a terrible, terrible time. So we decided we're going to file bankruptcy. And we had borrowed as much money as we could. I couldn't even get $500 on a credit card anymore. We're tapped out, and borrowed money from parents.
This is scary. This is really scary stuff.
Well, it sucks when you've made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You live in a beautiful home, you have a nice boat. Life seems to be just going perfect.
And the elephant has to put a obstacle, a massive one, in front of you because to test you.
That's for sure. That's right. Yeah, it was a great test. So 2 days before we're going to file bankruptcy, my business partner, Brett, goes to listen to a speaker who had just sold his business to Sprint for a lot of money. And at the end of the talk, he gives them our business plan. And Brett's a charming guy. And said, hey, look, on your flight back, maybe you can look at our plan, and maybe you would consider throwing us a lifeline. But if not, it's okay. We're going out of business on Friday. And this is Wednesday evening. So the next day, Thursday, he comes back and he's got 31 questions. And we got nothing to do. We're going out of business the next day.
And was this like an email or a
It was an
letter?
email. So
An
we got,
email,
of course,
okay.
we got on the phone with him for a few hours, dealt with all his questions. Questions were pretty hard. And then he says, I'll let you know tomorrow. It was tomorrow. Well, what time? Because we're going to file bankruptcy at noon. So anyway, because we weren't going to meet payroll, and Friday the 13th of October, and he wired the money by 10 a.m. that morning, and it saved the company. It was enough money to reinvent ourselves and rebuild an entirely different business, and eventually, we got to 1.6 billion in annual business over the next 6 years from that time.
That is crazy. So how many hours were you from filing for bankruptcy when you got the money?
2.
2
The schedules were all filled out. It was done.
2 hours from bankruptcy to $1.6 billion. That is nuts.
But you know what? We had already accepted it. We accepted in the days leading up to it. We had accepted it. We're done, and we know it, and it sucks.
But you never stop fighting, though. I mean, you and your partner, as you're going down, you're still like making moves. So
Yeah, never give up, man. And so that's a wonderful lesson about never giving up.
Speaking of that, because I wrote it down, but I don't want to forget. Viktor Frankl, talk about not giving up. He is a Holocaust survivor, but he's a trained psychologist, and he could tell within minutes whether someone would survive the Holocaust or die. And it goes back to exactly what you told your friend who was dying about, hey, you're going to run a marathon. If you had a purpose, you were going to live. And his purpose was he took a manuscript in with him to the prison camp, and he's like, I can't die. I got to publish this. And when he got out, he sat down, I think over like a week, and he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most impactful books I have ever read. And everybody watching this needs to read it. It was all about, if you have a life purpose and you're aligned, and this is a God-given gift that you have to make the world a better place, you're going to survive most things. But if you don't have that, all those people were not surviving. It goes back to that point with your friend who said, no, we're going to go run this marathon. I got to give you a purpose beyond like dying.
You know what? It is a great book. I've read it at least twice. It's inspiring.
Besides resilience, what you're most known for is making these huge, outrageous targets and then actually not only completing them by surpassing them. And that's why you have kind of Make Big Happen. It's a story of your life. Walk us through the psychology of that before, like, you know, a lot of people are watching this. They dropped out of high school, the college, they don't have the pedigree, but they don't realize how important it is. Walk us through why you do it. You've coached hundreds, your company, thousands of people. Why is that so important?
I believe having a North Star like that, this just something out there so huge, so outrageous that nobody believes, maybe not even you, and just putting a stake in the ground and putting it out there. It is amazing how many people actually achieve it, even though they don't know how. And you've met my good friend and longtime client, Rich Ballett.
Yeah.
When he was going out of business, he said he was 70 million in revenue, set a goal to do $1 billion. And I asked him, well, why'd you pick $1 billion? I don't know, sounded like a cool round number. And well, how did you think you were going to get there? I had no idea how I was going to get there. But it was amazing because it was a 10-year goal and he got there 5 years early. And then he said, now he doesn't need any more money. But his new goal is 10 billion and a billion of EBITDA. It's like, which insane size for a private company. And
Wow.
so we have 6.5 years left on this goal. He's at maybe 3.2 billion now, 350 million of profit. We still don't know how we're going to close that gap. And but we know we're going to get the goal done, and we know we'll get it done early.
Wow. So
I'll share one quick other story. The
sure.
Taskus guys were longtime clients of mine, and I met the 28-year-old founders. By the way,
Tell us about the company, like what their company was about.
yeah, and these guys would be great members of our group here, R360. They're young. They were 28 when we met. They were doing $6 million in revenue. Did business process outsourcing in the Philippines for companies like Uber, Tinder, and they dealt with the back office complaints or whatever. And so when we met, that's $6 million. I said, what's the dream? $1 billion. And so you're looking at these guys and you're going, hey, I'm going to think big guy. I'm not one here to judge you on having big goals. I inspire you to have them. But 6 million to $1 billion, you're 28 years old. You got all kinds of issues. Last year, they did 995 million and 220 million of profit. So not quite there yet, but well, let's call it a rounding error. They'll hit it this year.
And tell me the story about our mutual friend in Omaha, Ron, now Omani Carson, who was going to be a client, but then you said, nah, you're not for us. I can introduce you to someone else with those type of goals when you first met him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ron Omani hires this guy to interview a coach for him. So I'm maybe coach number 7 coming in for Ron's interview, and he's tough. And I asked him, hey, what's success 3 years from now? And he says, I'm at 3 billion in assets under management today, and I'd like to go to 5 billion. I looked at him. That's it. Not even 2x. Forget 10x. Not even 2. It's ridiculous. I don't think you have the aspirations to be a client of mine, and I think you should talk to one of the other 7 guys you're talking to. Probably be a better fit for you. He got so fired up, and when we start working together, he said, "Okay, hotshot, let's add a 0 to my 3 billion and make it 30 billion. You happy now?" So last year, they did, and Ron or Amani's firm is still a client of ours. It's been 15 years now. They did 43 billion. So the power of having these huge, outrageous targets or BHAGs or whatever you want to call them, it's powerful because it's amazing. You can eventually, if you believe, you'll achieve.
Yeah, and Carson's firm, I remember they made the Wall Street Journal has the top 100 RIAs. They were in the top 5 RIAs in the United States. So as you know, you introduced me at your conference to Jim Collins, yeah, and at the middle of the flywheel, I have R360's ambition is to be a force for good, touching 3 billion lives on the planet. I don't know how we're going to get there, but it's going to be a collective effort through 1,000 superheroes like you. And I was just thinking, like, what would Mark respond if I said, if you were going to be one of the Marvel superheroes, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, man.
Because I think of you like Atlas holding the world up, but he's not a superhero. He's not Batman or Superman or any of those. But what would you be in your
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because there are times people have teased me that I'm an Iron Man, but not Superman. And I don't know the answer to that. It was folks have told me I'm not Superman, so it's got to be Iron Man then.
So I want to go go to kind of another chapter is college. So you have to work your way through college and you see an ad about, painting houses. And again, it's a pretty simple thing. You make some money in the summer. Tell us about how you answered that ad and what transpired over the years from you answering that ad and thinking big.
When I was 17 years old, my father went bankrupt, and it was sad watching. He was the man, small business guy. He was a man in my world, and had been successful, middle class family, living in a small town. And when I went to college, he gave me $1,000, and he said, "That's all I have." And you better get some work and figure this out, get some loans. And I would say that was the best gift my father ever gave me. It taught me if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And talk about resilience. My job at the time had been that of a swim instructor and lifeguard. That was pretty cushy. I liked it, and but it wasn't going to pay for college. So I went to the career center at my college in Canada and saw this sign. It said, "Earn $5,000 to $15,000 in the summer." I said, "I don't know what that is, but that's got to be me." And I need to make the money because I'm not dropping out of college because I can't afford it. So I signed up, and look, I'm a Jewish guy. I don't work with my hands, and painting homes. But I don't want to do that. And how do I learn? How do we figure out how much it costs to paint a home, and all the stuff going on with that? So the premise of the company was it taught college students that were entrepreneurial, very driven, how to run a business. Painting homes was just a vehicle to learn how to become an entrepreneur. And so I went through training. I learned how to estimate a house. I learned how to sell to the consumer. One of the owners of the company was a former sales leader at Xerox. So we learned the proper way to sell, the way that Xerox at one time, it's the best sales training program in the world. Sure. And we learned how to hire people, deal with customer problems, employee problems. And that first summer, it did 70,000 in revenue, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but I made $18,000. And going to school back then in 1985.
And I think the ads say you could make 5 to 15. So of course you had to make a little more.
That's right. That's right. Yep. I ended up being the top guy. And so I ended up making $18,000. And man, it was amazing. I learned if I work hard, I get paid well. If I work harder, I can make even more. And at 19 and 20 years old, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Next summer, I did $120,000 in revenue, made $35,000. I was going to school to become an accountant. So I don't need an accountant. I can hire one. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And so that experience for me was a life-changing experience. And my friends that I went to college with did what I did. The reason I left Canada and went to California was I was going to open up student painters in California. And my best buddy from college, he went to Michigan and he did it in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And another buddy, he went down to Boston and did it. And another buddy went to Maryland to do it.
Wow. So you were basically helping other people start their own franchise, their own business. You were helping them make their own dreams come true by teaching them what you already figured out, and we're doing like 3 Sigma better than the normal person.
We became the top internship in California in 4 years. It was unbelievable. I remember setting up.
And you did it through colleges?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? First college I went to when I got there, I went to Pepperdine. I'd never seen a place so beautiful up on the hill,
Oh
overlooking
yeah.
the ocean, all these beautiful people. And they had zero interest in painting. Oh, no. Where do you come from? I'm Canadian. I think you picked the wrong place. And then I remember setting up at USC.
But
And
did you ever get into Pepperdine?
oh, yeah, we got into Pepperdine. We hired some people out of Pepperdine. We weren't accepted real well there. But at USC, we became real
But did it
popular.
stop you, right? A no did not stop you, or you're crazy didn't stop you.
It did not. It did not. We learned that asking for permission and going through the normal challenges to set up a table or a booth out at the colleges was too much red tape. So I had a pretty girlfriend at the time. She was blonde and beautiful, and she would work the booth. And we didn't ask for permission. We just set booths up at USC, UCLA, Cal Poly.
Was this like a job day or something, or?
No, any day that ended in day was a
Oh,
day that I could set up my, and we set up a schedule. And
right.
we would get kicked off campus from time to time. It was fine. We got over it. And but we had a rotation going. It was amazing. Over 4 years, we had 250, I'll call them franchisees. They were more like franchisees. 3,000 total painters. Imagine the size of an employer of that. Painting homes. We became the largest paint contractor in California in 4 years.
Wow. And like a lot of entrepreneurs I've talked to, we believe in this concept that wealth is more than money, but it doesn't seem that money was really a driver for you as a serial entrepreneur. I mean, obviously it's the bottom line, but what's your relationship with money, and how has it changed over time?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that your statement clearly reflects how I felt early on, because I remember my dad went bankrupt
Right,
and I
right.
had a fear
That's an
of,
emotional wound. Yeah.
yeah, it was my business coach, who's my coach for a long time. And you know him, Charlie. It was Richard Carr, was
Oh yeah.
for 10 years, was my coach.
West Pointer. Yeah. Colonel in the Army.
He was tough, but I needed tough. But he said to me one day, it was very profound. He goes, I finally figured you out and how you make decisions. You make them based on fear because you don't want to end up like your father. And so when I was going broke in 1998 through 2000, it was a really tough time for me thinking about um, what the other side of that might look like. So initially, it was like a lot of youngsters, right? It's financial security. It would be one, I like to win. So it was fun to win while making money and feel like I was doing something that made a difference and was purposeful. So if you go back to the student painter business, it taught hungry college students, and our best ones were like these farm kids that knew how to work hard, aspired to learn to have their own business, and knew that if they work hard, they could make money. Those were our absolute best. If you grew up in a very wealthy family, your probability of winning here was much lower than if you grew up on a farm.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You know how to work hard. But I want to go back to, if my memory serves me, you're going into this painting business, and your father, who you mentioned, thought you were absolutely nuts. But then later in life, or later, he wrote you a really nice letter telling you how proud he was of you. And how did that make you feel? And what's it like to do things when your parents, who you love and admire, tell you you're nuts and you shouldn't do something, but you do it anyways?
Well, you open up another story that you don't know about, which is my father told me when I left for California that it wouldn't work and I would be back. When I failed my state contractor's license test. Um, and then I'd already hired 33 entrepreneurial college students. I'd already had them going through training and they were getting ready to start. Some of them were already selling work. I don't have a friggin' license. They can't operate without a license. I can't get insurance or workers' compensation if I don't have a license. I can't get bonded. I'm going, holy shit. I appealed. They turned down my appeal. I appealed again. They turned down my appeal. So what do? You're 23 years old. You're about to pack up and head back to Canada, just like your dad said. You'll be back. You go to Congress. So I went to Congress. I went to my congressman and I said, here's my story. I'm this Canadian. I came here, told him the story, told him about my dad's bankruptcy, told my dad said that I would be back. I don't want to go back. I like it here. And I've hired all these people. They're counting on me and I don't want to let them down. And I'm going to be a strong employer for California. And I know you can help me. You got power. You can probably do something.
But Mark, it's not easy to get to a congressman. How did you even get in front of a congressman at your age?
You just pick up the phone and call.
That's great.
And you don't get him.
Right.
I didn't get him till much later,
Right.
when it was donation time. But his staff had done all the work. They arranged for me to go to Sacramento, my own private test up there at the Capitol. I didn't have to be in a room with 500 people. And I was told, just don't screw it up this time. You better get it right. You're not going to get another crack at it. I was so nervous. And I passed the test. When I became an American citizen years later, I became a donor of this congressman. The guy's name was Ed Royce. And when I became a citizen, he actually came to the house to present me with the flag.
Wow. That's awesome. You didn't quit. You never gave up. You got the business off the ground. At what point did you get that letter from your dad?
Oh man, I had letters over the years
Right.
from my dad. The most impactful letter, Charlie, that I received was recently, and he didn't give it to me. My mom did. My dad is 94. His dementia is really bad. And even though he's happy and super pleasant, he recognizes a familiar face but doesn't know who I am. He had written a letter to his 3 kids, and my mom found it and gave it to us about a year ago. And it was really, really powerful and quite emotional. And it was crazy because it was like supposed to be found after he passed away. He was a simple man. He had 3 fishing rods, 1 for each of his 3 sons. He had 3 watches, 1 for each of his 3 sons. He had a snowblower that didn't even work anymore, and he gave that to 1 of his sons. But he expressed to all 3 of us how proud he was at what we have all achieved.
Wow, that's so beautiful, Mark. My father died suddenly at the age of 62, just like heart attack, and I've outlived him now. But there's 4 of us, and 2 of my younger siblings had issues, and they didn't have closure, and it really affected them. So, I just came back with my 26-year-old daughter from India, and I took the time to write her a 4-page letter while I'm alive about how proud I am of her, who she's become, who I feel and just that unconditional love is like a wind at our kids' sails if they know that, especially once they become adults, it's a different type of relationship. And I was so proud of you and Darian at your conference because I'd asked you, how are you going to go open? You have these crazy opens, and to have her on stage to me was so powerful. How did that make you feel? That was really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you. That was a later decision that we made, and we had talked about what would be an impactful opening, and it's risky putting one of your kids on stage at an event, 500 CEOs, and we felt it tied together well because she was an employee at one of our longtime clients. So it like the story all fit, and it made me feel amazing because I was super proud of her, and she was super proud of herself, which made me feel even better. That I remember when she was younger, and we used to do these YPO father-daughter events.
Right.
She was 6, 7, 8 years old, and I said, "Hey, we're doing this together. You're going to introduce the event today." "Oh no, I'm not." And "Oh yeah, these are your guests." And but it was to watch how she's developed. It made me feel super, super proud.
Well, she was very graceful. Just her presence she exuded that charisma. But if you had to leave both of your children with one really powerful message to carry forward to their children, your grandchildren, what would that message be, and why does it matter so deeply to you?
That's a big, big question. Um,
And I'll start with what I would like my children to remember, and that is that the world is not coming at you. The world is coming from within you. You're not a victim. And all these stories of, the universe places these obstacles in front of you to teach you something. And it's not what happens, it's how you respond to it. We're not victims, we're powerful. And I want them to learn when something happens in their life that they're not happy with or it's a setback to think, huh, what is it about me that brought this on? And if I can't figure that out, then what is it about the universe that it's trying to put me through this very kind of painful situation so that I can learn something? And I also tell them, I don't believe in failure. If you can name one thing that you've learned, it's not failure, it's a teaching lesson. So the world is not coming at you, it's coming from within you. And if they can remember that one thing, I mean, it took me over 50 years of hard knocks to learn. So what would you say yours be?
I'm not going to give you one because I think that's unfair, especially with no time to think about it and narrow it down. So I'll give you a few.
Good, good. A
So
few is better.
I just said this morning to my son. I said the first half, and he repeated the second half. He's being a little grumpy this morning, and it was, "If it's meant to be," and he said, "It's up to me." And I embody that. I've said to my kids their whole life that my job here is to create kids that can fend for themselves and be resilient out there. I've also learned that if you don't like your situation, you have two choices: either change your situation or change the lens as to which you look at that situation. I've also learned that nothing ever great was achieved without adversity and the desire to march on. You are the average of your 5 closest friends. So take a good look at you are who you hang with. So if you don't like what that looks like, you get to choose. If you're the smartest person in the room, go find a new room. And so those are a few of the thoughts. And of course,
Tell me more about, Mark, the changing of the lens. Can you give context to that? Because that's super powerful, but I think it may go over people's head if you don't.
Well, let me come back to that because we talk about that at home all the time. It's so you had a bad day or a conflict with friend or maybe somebody you work with, and it's so dramatic and so emotional, and sometimes people make some extreme statements, and I want to reflect back. So you don't like your job? Well, okay, okay. Well, you got two choices: change your situation, quit, go find another job. Right? It's in your control. Or change the lens as to what you look at it from. So, okay, it's not that I don't like my whole job. I just didn't like this piece of my job. But yet I'm 24 years old. I'm learning a ton, and get over it. Focus on what I do have control over versus what I don't. And so I think people can get so wired up, and but they could just change the way they look at a situation. Look
Yeah.
at a friend or somebody they're dating, or
Yeah. And that brings up, a story that I remember was quite painful. I went to the Air Force Academy. They have an honor code. We will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate anyone among us who does. And I love that. And I think it was my first summer. I didn't go home on vacation. I stayed. I did a program, and I went to bed early, maybe at 10, and then around 11, somebody knocked on my door, and they were having a poker game. That hey, come! And so I went to play poker till 2 in the morning. But at midnight, they come and they make sure that everybody's like in their room. And I wasn't in my room. I was playing poker. But I have this habit of sleeping with a pillow between my legs. I got skinny legs or something. So when the guy came, it looked like I was in my bed because when I left, the pillow was kind of in the middle. So next thing you know, I'm brought up on honor charges that I stuffed my bed, and because I was trying to fool him, which is a violation of the honor code. And here I am in front of like 8 seniors about to fricking get kicked out of the Air Force Academy and go home. My father had the one rule: you will not be in the military. And I had a difficult relationship with my father, and I went to the military with my mom's help because I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And here I am about to get kicked out. And man, I was lucky that I could get like 2 or 3 former roommates who who were able to come in that said that they made fun of me. That that's why, and I was able to convince them not to kick me out. And then I was so angry and disappointed at the whole process. It was an elected position, and I get my class to elect me as the chairman of the Cadet Honor Committee. And then my year, I end up disenrolling 60 cadets, 108 honor boards. I chair 60 of them. And then 20 years later, there's a big honor scandal, and they bring me back as a civilian. I'm the chairman of the board of the U.S. Air Force Academy with 4 senators, 4 congressmen, going to meetings in Washington with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Air Force, the Chief of Staff. And it all happened because I almost got kicked out of the Air Force Academy for lying, for having a pillow between my legs. And it came back to the reframe of shit. Look at how my life changed and everything I've done because of this really screwed up situation that I was in. I don't know if I ever told you that story, but it's just reflective of shit happens in life. But I want to go back to you've written 2 incredible books, and if you're an entrepreneur and you read these books, it's like, dang, like Mark is giving away his Coca-Cola secret, his formula on how to grow and scale a business. And it's so well written and clear with all the tools. It's all in the execution. So tell us about your journey going into, you've created the largest coaching company in the world because, of course, that's what you're going to do. And now you're helping entrepreneurs with their own dreams. How did that happen? What have you learned from it? What are the big lessons what are the common mistakes that you see in the people that you coach? And I know that you're not coaching as many people as you used to.
Yeah. So I started it because I wasn't planning on doing this. I had always been coached. I played competitive tennis in high school. I played competitive squash. I won the U.S. squash championship, ran, I swam, I did Ironmans, always had a coach. And I had a coach in business since I was 24 and, and, and still do today. So over the years, I've always been coached. But after I sold my business in 2006, I was looking at, I didn't know I wanted to start something again. That's a lot of work starting, as you know. And I thought I would buy something. So I looked at buying Iron Man. I thought, man, that would be so cool. I could own Iron Man. They weren't interested at the time. I looked at buying the Rock and Roll Marathon series. Hey, I like running and I like music. Man, it sounds perfect for me. Give me something meaningful to do. And I couldn't get that deal done. And then I said to my wife, Warren Buffett is having an event in Omaha and we should go. And it was his annual meeting, right? And she goes, that is the stupidest thing. I do not want to go to Omaha with 40,000 people, sit in a stadium and listen to a couple of old guys go through financial reports. And I said,
like that.
YPO's having this little meeting within a meeting. And so we can go to YPO's party. EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, is doing the same. We're members of both. We should go. And remember, no worthwhile effort is ever lost. And she goes, oh, here we go again. We go to Omaha and meet this guy named Joe. And Joe says, hey, I'd like you to be my business coach. I'm a business coach. What business you in? So now imagine this. It's 2008.
Oh, wow.
He's in the mortgage business. And the only thing I'm thinking is, how quickly are you going out of business? No, there were no material survivors back then. Countrywide and Bear Stearns and Lehman and Washington Mutual and IndyMac and everybody's going out of business. This guy was going to go out of business. So Joe became my first client and I coached him how to go through bankruptcy and still save his home. So then some other folks heard that I was doing this. Before I knew it, within a couple of years, I had 33 clients. I'm going, what was a hobby? It became a little bit of a side hustle, turned into a business. Today, we have, I think it's 556 CEOs that we coach around the world. We have 65 former president CEOs, some of the top companies in the world doing the coaching. And what I love about it is the impact that it has on entrepreneurs, their leadership teams, their employees, and their families all over the world. It's super purposeful. It does good, real good.
All leaders are great teachers, and you are an amazing teacher. I mean, you could have been a college professor, but you were teaching people how to paint, and this is a core strength. You're an amazing teacher.
It's on my bucket list. Someday, I would like to teach an entrepreneurship class in college. I just think it would be a kick in the pants, and the impact that I could make. Hey, look, I had a lot of boring professors over the years. I am not boring, and I got lots of stories.
MIT produces more entrepreneurs than Stanford, and I taught there, and I taught at the MIT Israel Lab, and I got to talk to the head there because they do a year. They all, like 300 kids apply for these 40 seats to be in this class. They pair up 4 kids with a company in Israel that's received at least a Series A, and they start working with them. And then in January, they actually go there and they get paired up and it's different types of companies. Some have, go-to-market strategies to the US, other things, and then they come back after a month with all that they learned, but they always bring individuals that come in to teach. And you'd be amazed. And the kids that get in are very entrepreneurially minded. They want to see how these guys actually get something off the ground. After the US and China, Israel is number 3 in terms of public companies listed on the stock exchange. So I think you'd be amazing. And I will make a note to make a connection and
Terrific.
start with coming in to teach a class at MIT.
That would be super fun. I would love to do it. So you had asked, what is it that the top performing clients that we have do versus the rest? And what I have learned is you don't need to be that good. You could be just good. You don't need to be great. What makes you great is your ability to hire amazing people and then follow a process. Like our clients perform the best. They just follow the freaking process. There's a process. There aren't hundreds of ways to run a business. And whatever process that you pick one, commit to it, and stay true to it. And if you do that every day, every week, every month, every quarter, it's like training for a marathon. It's just, if you're willing to do the work, the race day is the reward. And so those that perform better than all the rest aren't the brightest, didn't go to Harvard or Yale, but they're the people that let's not kid ourselves. They are driven. They didn't graduate at the top of their classes. They recognize they're going to end up hiring the A students that end up working for the B and C students that they are, and they're going to follow the process, and the process works. And I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but our average client grows revenue at 2.6 times the national average and grows profit at 4 times the national average. So is that an adverse selection? No, they're following the process.
I agree with you 100%. And I learned that the hard way. And then I ran a peer-to-peer group for social entrepreneurs and trying to teach them also, look, you're here to impact, you're impacting 100,000 people, but if you did this process, you would impact 10x, a million. Isn't that important? And it also, when you follow a process, it frees you up because everybody's being measured. When people are being measured, you never have to fire anybody because they fire themselves. They're not a good fit. And if they're not hitting the numbers that they agree, then you got to find somebody new. But it is a very difficult thing, Mark. And the most difficult thing in my entrepreneurial career is you hire someone and they help you take the company from 0 to like 10 million, and they have literally given up everything to do it. But 10 to 100 is very different. And the biggest mistakes I've made is not letting go of that chief operating officer. The minute I did and hired the right person, then the company takes off. How do you help think through that and help entrepreneurs you're working with make those tough choices?
If you ask me what the one thing was, the one thing that the top people do that the others do not, is it's all about the people. And I have learned repeatedly as an entrepreneur and as a coach for 17 years that the longest time in a leader's life is the time they lose confidence in someone and the time they do something about it. When in doubt, there is no doubt. When the jury is out, the verdict is in. A players want to hang with A players. And like Jim Collins says, the only way to deliver to the people achieving is not to burden them with the people that aren't achieving. And many people sit there and they vacillate for a long period of time. Sometimes it's a week, a month, a year, 10 years. And then you ask them, how many people have you fired too soon? The answer is always zero.
Also, Mark, when you start a company from zero and you raise by the skin of your teeth a couple 100,000, and then you grow a little bit and maybe you raise $1 million, you don't have the capital anywhere near close to hire an A player. You don't, unless you're giving away a lot of equity. So if that's a fact, then that means as you get more cash, you're going to be able to deploy it to take your hopefully B players to A, and you're going to have to like think that through. But how do you determine, like, with you have a certain amount of money, so you can afford only a certain amount of talent, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll call it, there are different stages or chapters. The hardest chapter is 0 to 3. It is pure hell. You got an idea, you got drive and grit, and you're doing everything on a shoestring. You put some of your own capital into the business. You're not raising any money. Nobody's going to give you money for an idea. And so then you get to, let's say through your hard effort, you get to 3 million. And so now you're there. You ask any entrepreneur at 3 million and ask them what success is 3 years from now. 19 out of 20 will give you the same answer. You want to guess what the answer is?
They want to get to 10 million.
They want to get 10 million. Sure.
Yeah,
it's the same.
Not 100, 10. Yeah.
So you want to go from 3 to 10. Why 10? Because at 10 million, earning 10 to 15 or maybe even 20% profit. Imagine at 10, you're earning $1 million a year. At 15, $1.5 million. If you got a business that you can drive 20, you're at $2 million a year. Well, there's some security in that, but it also enables you to have the money to hire top talent. And you don't need to hire it all at once. It's what would be the most important role that would have the biggest impact in enable you to go from X, where you are today, to Y, where you aspire to be. All roles aren't equal. So there are two that are major roles for people. One of them is somebody's got to drive the growth engine that's been there, done it before, that can take you from where you are to where you aspire to be. And the second one is whatever you're doing in the back office, you better do it right. So you're not, all that effort that's put on the front end driving new business is not falling out the back door because you're falling down on a delivery or service to your customers.
And what I never realized until I started doing it is that when you invest the money in an A player, they undoubtedly end up bringing like 3 or 4 people that have followed them through their career to your company that you don't have to pay a recruiter for. And those people who are A players that follow the A players also transform your business.
Yeah, I want to go back to my mortgage company for a minute. I remember there were these 2 women. One of them, her name was Cindy, and the other one, her name was PJ. They were the top mortgage people in our market, these 2 ladies. They kicked ass. We kept trying to get them in the early days. We could not. And then eventually, we convinced Cindy to join us. And the way it happened, we just kept calling on Cindy and calling. She would laugh and say, no, boys, and not interested. And then one day, somebody came into her office and shot with a gun the guy that owned her company. The guy didn't die, but that day, she said, I don't know what's going on here, but this place is too unsafe. The only people that she knew to call were the people that have been bugging her for the last couple of years. Cindy joined our company. Right after she did, so did PJ, and so did all the other A players. And we became the dominant force in our market where all the A players wanted to come and work. So your point about that is right. And people compromise too often on hiring top talent, and they wait way too long to change that talent out. And when you ultimately make the decision and you think, what's everybody going to think of me? What's the impact on the culture of the company when I make this decision and I let this person go? And you're all worried about how you're going to be viewed. And the answer is almost always, what took you so long? Everybody knew but you.
When I let somebody go, I really go out of my way to write them an amazing letter of recommendation. I will personally introduce them to as many people as I can with the explanation and really try to help them have a soft landing. But if somebody would have told me at the very beginning, which you learn through your books, that if you want to go from X to Y, by the time you get to Y, you have to have replaced your senior management team maybe 3 full times over like a 15-year period. And you got to be ready for that. And you got to like train for like, it has to be in the back of your mind that the people that took you to 3 and 10 aren't the ones that are going to take you to $1 billion or to 100. And when I had my firm, it was a financial services firm, and I would have visitors, very high level from Latin America, because I had 6, 7 offices in Latin America. And I had a beautiful office, but I could never get, nobody wanted to be a receptionist. They came, they went, it was terrible. Then I read in the newspaper, there was a woman who won the image of Smith Barney. In all of Smith Barney, the United States, this woman in Palm Beach, she had been a top performing school principal in New York, and she retired. So man, I just went after her, and my partner thought I was crazy because I had to pay her 3x of what we were paying a receptionist. And I gave her a business card that said, Director of First Impressions. I will tell you that this woman, when people came into my lobby, she would show them the pictures, talk about the firm. That woman did more to transform my business.
What year
So you're
was
right.
what year was that?
That had to be 2002, 2003.
So listen to this. You probably don't know this. Back in the mid '90s, we had a lot of receptionists, and they were all the directors of First Impressions.
Wow.
And we wrote a lot about that, and maybe somehow that got over to you.
Could be.
But we had this whole spiel. Hi, my name is Don. I'm your director of First Impressions. How can I help you today? And
wow.
so,
well,
yeah.
You and I are YPO, so maybe I learned it in YPO, and I don't want to let you go without talking about, you and I have coaches. We've always had coaches. It's super important. And I've also coached, soccer and baseball and things like that. But you and I have also been to peer-to-peer organizations. You've been in EO, YPO, and now R360. Tell us about, why you've been in YPO, EO. I think you were the chapter head in San Diego, but what's the difference between having a coach and being in a peer-to-peer organization? You and I were in Tiger 21 also.
Yeah. So they're very different. So I joined YEO way back in 19.
That stands for what?
Young. I wouldn't qualify anymore. So it was Young Entrepreneurs Organization back then. And I joined 1995. I've been a member for 30 years. After a bunch of years, they ended up dropping the Y because at 40, they were kicking everybody out, and they eventually dropped the Y and called it EO. And I've been a member of YPO for 24 years. And I've been with you, Charlie, since you started R360. And so what's really unique about the peer organizations, it's really about the people. I love meeting the different people that are motivating, inspiring, driven, have incredible life experiences. As I mentioned earlier, if you're the smartest guy in the room, find a new room. Man, I love going to this stuff and meeting the most unique and interesting people that are accomplished or driven. They're doing the most unique things, and so that's what the peer and EO brings you something different because the size of company. YPO, it's a different lens in terms of the type of people. And R360 is it brings a different audience also with a little bit of overlap. It's incredible for your own development uh, and the development of your family and whatever it is that you're seeking in your life. It'll help you accomplish that because you're with people that have done this before you, or you ideate together to determine that path.
Yeah, and I got to thank you personally for a couple of things that just hit my mind. But we had a meeting where everybody had to give a little 20-minute TED talk about something they had experience with, and you talked about thinking now when you're young, who's going to make decisions around your older parents, and really thinking that through, because now I moved to Daytona Beach to take care of my 88-year-old mom who's now in hospice. And that talk you gave maybe a year or more ago was really very powerful. And then you also recommended a member who got through the membership committee, Troy Templeton. And then Troy gave a presentation on what he learned from this guy that started Northern Trust, Byron Smith, and then American Tool Works. And he had 3 sons, and he, like typical, he gives a portion to each of the 3. 2 of them, by the 3rd generation, lost it. But the 3rd son created something called the Dynasty Trust, where he kept the corpus together, and it grew from 10 million to now 16 billion, supporting 160 family members, and it only distributes like 5% of the income with certain rules. And that, like, wow. So he introduced me to the attorney in Chicago. So now I'm moving in that direction. And that would have never happened had I not been sitting in a room with people that I respect, that are just sharing their own stories, things that they've learned from each other. So those things have been super, super powerful in my life, and the life of all of my heirs. It's going to be different because you brought somebody in who said something that impacted me that I respect, because he's a super diligent guy. This same individual loves adventure. And I actually interviewed Troy. If you guys haven't seen the interview with Troy Templeton, see it. But when he was a kid, he really got interested in adventure. And when he was a teenager, he was on this like bus all over the United States, meeting people. And then he found out that there was this boat called The World that literally went all over the world. And he was like, how cool is that? And I guess he let you on the boat for a couple of weeks with the vet, and now you're going around the world. Tell us about that and that experience and what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, amazing. So Troy says, come check it out. Come see. And hey, and we knew each other, but not that well. And he said, come stay with us in our apartment on this cruise ship. So he invited us for 2 weeks, and they could only stay for 3 days. They had another commitment, which was we had a great time with them for 3 days, and then we enjoyed the rest of the time. We were in a lovely part of the world. We were in the Maldives and the Seychelles, and the Maldives was number 1 on my wife's bucket list. And so now we become amazing friends, traveling the world together on the world. And it just keeps moving 365 days a year with the neatest people. There's 165 cabins.
You guys decide every year, you vote like where you want to go the following year?
Yeah, there's a committee that does that. They put the schedule out 3 years ahead of time. The committee votes, or not the committee, the members vote on, they put 2 or 3 schedules in front of you and they vote, and the vote goes where the group voted. And you can hop on and hop off anytime. It's kind of like the little red bus that you hop on and off anywhere in the world. In one year, we went up to the Arctic as far as the boat could go. And then later that year, we went down to Antarctica. And it's amazing. We have been, in the 2 years that we've owned, we have been to so many places. And so how do you carry on with your business and life while you're there? Well, thanks to Starlink, the internet is perfect in either of the poles, and it works great, and you just carry on with your business and life.
I remember you were on the boat and you sent me a text. Hey, I'm, sitting here with so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm like, who's that? And you're like, dude, like, dumbass, this is like your son's girlfriend's parents. I just hadn't met him yet. So I finally met Joe. What a great guy. And
I had dinner with your son. We sat next to each other. How small world is that? That he happened to be dating somebody that owns on the boat, and what a great young man.
yeah, well, I want to go. The boating thing brought up another great Mark story of how to reframe something super painful, annoying. And I don't want to speak ill will of the individual because he's no longer with us. But you had a neighbor in Miami Beach, and you have a dock and a boat, and it went, I guess, 5 feet over the dock. And this person got triggered and started a whole thing and complaints and regulatory actions because he couldn't deal with your boat being 5 foot over on his dock. But then the whole thing leads to you, getting an amazing boat. Tell us about that. It's created such great experiences for R360. I've been on your boat a dozen times. It's so fun and great energy.
So
Make big happen.
it was only 2.5 feet over.
Oh, 2.5 feet. So,
which is
he was exaggerating.
And the city enforcement here in Miami Beach says we never enforce this.
Right.
But this guy went so crazy, and he's never here anyway, but went so nuts about it. The police came here every day to measure and cite us. And finally, they told me that in the end, I was going to lose. Remember, I'm a never give up guy, but I decided if I'm going to lose this, I'm going to win bigger because I'm going to get a bigger boat.
It goes back to what you want your kids to remember as a perfect example of the reframe, right? You reframed what you wanted to something else to still win.
Totally. So we got this great new yacht called Make Big Happen, and it's so fun. We get to entertain friends, people visiting us all the time from all over the world. We get to take them out on Make Big Happen, and it's fun, and it's a great way to enjoy time with friends and see the Miami skyline.
Great. Well, as we wrap up, Mark, I just wanted to ask you, what question should I have asked you that you really wanted to answer that I didn't ask, that you could provide some great value and final reflections to our great audience?
You asked way more questions than I thought one would ever ask. You're so well prepared, and you asked me stuff that I never even thought you would ask me about. And
well, let me ask you this one, if you're struggling. To me, one of the most important things is picking the right life partner. And your wife, Yvette, is just so full of energy, matches you, keeps up with you. You got to keep up with her, which is probably why you run all these Ironmans. But tell us, like, what I tell I have 3 daughters, is I always say, look, find somebody that's kind and somebody that is smart and ambitious But at the end of the day, if they're not kind, it's a problem. Now I've been divorced, so I have gone through the pain of that. But how did you end up with a vet, and what's your advice around picking the right life partner?
Yeah, it's really good. And you know, I was going to mention it earlier when you asked me about advice for my kids. I have written a letter to each kid that they don't know about, and to be opened on their wedding day. And hopefully, I am there and still alive to be able to either read it to them or give it to them when that happens. But one of the messages I have put in for both of them is the number one determinant of your happiness will be who you choose to marry. Get that one decision right. It makes all the other stuff and the adversity and the challenges that one experiences in life so much better. Like I remember when Yvette was, because I couldn't go with her to look at apartments during that time. I was busy dealing with the bankruptcy, and she's out looking. And she could have been a lot more difficult lugging a 1-year-old around and 9 months pregnant and all that. And and she was like, "Hey, we're in this together." And hey, look, I agree. This sucks. Yet, what alternative do we have? We could be angry with each other about it, or I can just choose to support you and root for you and root for us. And so Yvette and I met on a blind date, and as a good Canadian, I took her to a hockey game, and she had never been to one of those. And you know what? In June here, we'll be married 29 years. It's been easy. And look, there's a lot of luck in that, and you don't know how people are going to turn out. But I feel so fortunate and so grateful that we met, and she's an amazing life partner.
Wow. Well, I'm really blessed that you and Yvette are in my life. You've certainly continued to enrich it every day. And while I've met and interacted with Mason a little bit, I think I've interacted with your daughter a little bit more, and look forward to seeing them rise in our Rising Leader program. They're probably going to take over R360 sooner than we think. But thank you for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Charlie, thanks for some great questions. This went by real fast, as you told me it would, and that goes to your preparation. So thank you. I'll leave you with this final thought. I have learned there are 3 kinds of people: those that make big happen, those that let things happen, and those that ask, what happened? So to anybody listening, you get to choose which one of those 3 people you want to be.
Thanks, Mark.